Okay, so today we're doing another deep dive.
Another deep dive.
You know, I always say that. Like
Yeah.
it's a unique thing, but this is kind of what we do.
It is what we do.
And we do it a lot, but today's material is pretty wild. We've got excerpts from Hello and Welcome to Speak English and No More 2.pdf.
Okay.
So, not exactly
Tricky title.
the New York Times bestseller list, but
we go where the information is.
Exactly. And this PDF actually contains transcripts from a hypothetical podcast called True Crime Chronicles.
I see a podcast within a PDF.
Yeah, and it's
very meta.
It's weird, right? So this podcast basically dives into 3 different serial killer cases.
Interesting.
That I'm sure you've heard of.
I mean, everyone's fascinated by serial killers, right?
Right. Like why
are we so drawn to this darkness?
Yeah,
it's like
so we're going to look at the cases themselves as presented in this True Crime Chronicles thing.
Okay.
But also we kind of want to go beyond that, right?
Go deeper.
Yeah, like
beyond the PDF, beyond the podcast.
What is it about these cases?
Exactly. What makes them tick?
So compelling, and what can we learn from them?
Yeah, think of this as like a cheat sheet almost.
Okay.
To understand
I like it.
The Golden State Killer case, the Zodiac Killer, and the BTK Killer.
Right.
But not just like a boring summary.
Yeah.
Like, let's actually explore what makes them so fascinating and disturbing.
Right, exactly. And why they still kind of like stick with us.
Right. Yeah. Decades later.
Decades later. So
some of these are,
a while ago.
The first one that they talk about in this True Crime Chronicles transcript is the Golden State Killer.
Okay. Familiar with that one.
So from 1976 to 1986.
Over a decade.
This guy was just terrorizing California as a serial rapist and murderer.
It's scary to think about. I know. And like the details are pretty chilling. Like breaking into homes at night.
That's terrifying.
Binding and gagging victims.
Oh my God.
Like just so scary. And it really paints this picture of like prolonged fear.
Right.
For everybody in those communities.
A decade of that.
I know.
I can't even imagine.
It's crazy, right? And what's even more crazy to me is that it went on for a decade before they
even had a clue.
Like they had no idea who it was.
Really speaks to the limitations back then.
Right.
Like we have so much technology now.
And it wasn't until 2018.
So we're talking like over 30 years later.
I know that they finally identified him through DNA evidence.
Finally.
Right.
But can you imagine?
It makes you wonder.
The victims' families.
Right. Like how many people passed away never knowing?
Never having closure.
You know who it was? It's it's really
heartbreaking. It is.
And so the True Crime Chronicles podcast and their expert, they talk about what made this case so fascinating to them. And it wasn't just that he was so brutal.
Right.
It was that he was able to evade capture for so long.
It was good.
Right.
Like,
how do you do that?
Yeah.
And they use this phrase, master of disguise.
Oh, yeah, I've heard that.
When you hear that, what comes to mind?
Well, I mean, he must have been really meticulous.
Yeah.
And planned everything out,
Right.
Probably able to blend in like a chameleon.
Right.
And it wasn't just like a physical disguise.
Right.
I bet he was able to like understand people's behavior.
Oh, interesting.
And kind of anticipate what the cops would do.
Wow.
Yeah. And maybe he even like cultivated a totally normal persona.
Yeah, maybe he was like...
So no one would suspect him. Like a soccer dad or something, you know.
Church. Yeah, church-going guy.
Guy next door. Total opposite of what he really was.
Right. And it's crazy that it took this like huge leap in technology with DNA to finally... familial DNA searching, I think they call it, where they look at relatives' DNA.
Right.
It's amazing what they can do now.
I know.
But it also makes you think, doesn't it?
About
like privacy and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Like where do we draw the line?
Right. Because
we want to catch these guys, but...
On the one hand, you want to solve these crimes.
Right.
But on the other hand, you're like...
Do we want the government to have access to everybody's DNA?
Exactly.
It's a tough question.
It is a tough question.
Yeah.
And this transcript also really emphasizes, the impact on the victims and their families.
Of course.
And that's something we can't forget about.
Yeah.
Right? Like this trauma that they went through can last a lifetime.
A lifetime.
And I think that's something that this case and a lot of cases like it have helped us understand.
Like, we need to support survivors
Absolutely.
of sexual assault and domestic violence.
100%.
Because these aren't just cold cases. Like, we're talking about real people.
They're human beings.
With real lives.
Of families and,
Yeah, we can't forget that.
So it's important to remember that.
Yeah.
Okay, so
what's next?
Let's move on to the second case that they talk about in this True Crime Chronicles transcript.
Okay.
The Zodiac Killer.
Oh, yeah. Everyone's heard of the Zodiac.
Right. So
that one's really interesting.
A little different.
Yeah. Okay.
This guy was terrorizing the San Francisco Bay Area.
Okay.
In the late 1960s and early 1970s.
A little while ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what's really different about this case is that
he was never caught.
He was never caught.
Right.
They never figured out who it was.
Still a mystery.
I know.
That's crazy.
So he killed at least 5 people.
At least 5.
That they know of.
Could be more. And he sent all these, super cryptic...
These letters.
Letters and codes.
Yeah, the ciphers.
Taunting them.
And the newspapers.
Oh, yeah. Like, he wanted to be famous.
Right.
A twisted kind of fame.
Yeah. And to this day.
Still unsolved.
They still don't know...
Wild.
Who it was.
Yeah.
So this mystery.
It just keeps people coming back for more.
It's like an itch you can't scratch.
Exactly. You want to know who it is, but you can't.
And I think that's part of
it drives you crazy.
The reason why this case is still so
compelling.
Talked about, you know.
Sure.
Because it's like...
You can't just Google it.
Right.
And find out the answer.
It's like...
When mystery lives on.
We want answers.
Yeah.
But we can't get them.
The ultimate cold case.
Right. And this True Crime Chronicles transcript, they actually have a quote from their expert, John.
Okay.
And he basically says that the case is so mysterious.
Not only because he evaded capture.
Right.
But because he was like a master of cryptography.
Oh, yeah. He loved those codes.
Like ciphers.
Creating these complex ciphers that no one could figure out.
And some of them they still haven't cracked.
I know some of them are still unsolved.
Isn't that crazy?
It's wild.
Like, we have computers now?
Right.
You think we could figure it out, but...
I would think so.
Some of them are just impossible.
Like, what does that tell us about this guy?
I think it shows a totally different kind of mind than the Golden State Killer.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah.
Like, this guy needed to communicate.
Right.
He wanted to taunt the police.
Yeah.
He wanted to show off how smart he was.
Like he was playing a game.
Yeah, a twisted game.
Right. And it wasn't just like random violence.
No, it was calculated.
It was like he was putting on a show.
Yeah, he wanted to control the narrative.
Right.
With his little messages.
It's so creepy.
It is creepy.
But also kind of fascinating.
I know, right? It's like you can't look away. Yeah.
Even though it's terrifying.
And think about the people who are living in the San Francisco Bay Area at that time.
Oh my gosh, I can't imagine just walking around.
The source talks about...
It's like afraid of everyone.
Wave of fear and paranoia.
Rightfully so.
That was going on.
Yeah.
Because there's this killer on the loose.
Who knows who it could be?
Right, and they don't know who it is.
It could be anybody.
And so it affects so many people.
Your neighbor.
Right.
The guy at the grocery store.
It just like really brings up that issue of community safety.
And how do you...
On effective law enforcement.
Yeah. How do you police something like that?
Right.
When you have no idea who you're looking for and everyone's a suspect.
And everyone's terrified.
It's a nightmare.
It is. It really is.
Okay, so the last case...
Hit me with it.
...that True Crime Chronicles talks about...
Okay.
...is the BTK killer.
BTK, that's a creepy one. Yeah. BTK stands for...
Bind, torture, kill.
Yeah, bind, torture, kill.
That's enough to give you nightmares.
Right. So this was Dennis Rader.
Okay.
And he terrorized Wichita, Kansas.
Wichita.
For over 30 years.
30 years. That's unbelievable.
I know.
That's longer than I've been alive?
Right.
It's hard to even comprehend that.
Before they finally caught him in 2005.
Wow, finally.
Yeah.
So like we were using dial-up internet when this guy was still out there.
Crazy, right? Like the world changed so much.
The world changed. He stayed the same.
And he stayed the same.
Wow.
Like think about all the technology that came out during that time.
Cell phones, the internet.
And he was just like living his life.
Wow.
Committing these crimes.
Living a double life.
So the thing that's really crazy about this one is that...
He was a respected member of the community.
He was like a pillar of the community.
Yeah, a church leader.
Yeah.
A Boy Scout leader.
Super involved in his church. A family. A wife and kids.
He had it all.
And everyone thought he was this great guy.
And meanwhile, He's out there.
But he was secretly
torturing and killing people.
Torturing and killing people.
That's so messed up.
I know.
It's like something out of a movie.
Right.
And that was real life.
I know.
That's the scary part.
What makes this case so disturbing is that he was leading this double life.
A total Jekyll and Hyde situation.
Right. And the True Crime Chronicles expert, Emily, she says that this duality is what makes the BTK case so unsettling.
Right.
Like, on the surface.
You think you know someone?
He was this ordinary guy.
A nice guy.
Even an upstanding member of society. Secretly, he was capable of these
this monster?
Horrible,
brutal act.
It makes you question everything.
Right. It's like, how well do we really know anyone?
Anyone.
You know?
Right.
And it makes you think about, like, all the people that we interact with every day. Coworkers, your neighbors.
Right.
The people you see at the store.
What are they capable of?
You never really know.
You just never know.
It's unsettling.
It is unsettling.
Yeah. But it's also important to remember.
What's that?
That these cases are rare.
Right.
Most people are good.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, we don't want to...
We can't let fear control our lives.
Right. We don't want to become paranoid.
Exactly.
But it is something to think about.
It is.
You know?
Yeah.
And just like the other cases, this transcript really emphasizes the impact on the victims and their families.
Of course.
And the need to support survivors of violence and trauma.
It's a recurring theme for a reason.
Yeah, because it's so important.
It is.
So we've talked about 3 very different cases.
Yeah, 3 very different killers.
The Golden State Killer, the Zodiac Killer, BTK.
All fascinating in their own way.
But when you look at them together, there are some
patterns emerge.
Patterns that emerge. Like what?
Well, first of all, they all evaded capture for a really long time.
Right.
Like years and years.
Years and years, sometimes decades.
Decades, yeah.
Right.
And they all had their own MO.
Right. Their own methods.
Yeah. The disguise, the codes, the creepy letters.
Right. It's like they each had their own signature.
Yeah.
And, of course, the impact.
The human cost.
On the victims.
Yeah.
And their families.
That's something we can't forget.
And their communities. Yeah. It's just devastating. Long-lasting.
It ripples outward.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
Like a stone in a pond.
Okay, so I think each of these cases, in its own way, shows how complex these investigations can be.
Absolutely. Especially back then. Before all the fancy technology.
Right. Before we had DNA and all that stuff.
Right. They were working with basically nothing compared to what we have today.
It's crazy how much things have changed.
It is.
And I think they also show us, you know, this really disturbing, but also kind of fascinating.
The dark side of human nature.
Yeah.
What are we capable of?
The dark side of human nature.
Yeah. It's scary, but it's also...
the fact that we can never really know what someone else is capable of.
You just never know.
You know.
Nope.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into the True Crime Chronicles excerpts, I think we've learned a lot about the Golden State Killer.
Yeah.
The Zodiac Killer and the BTK Killer.
3 of the most infamous.
And why these cases are still so notorious.
Yeah, they really capture the imagination.
You know.
For sure.
And we've talked about what made them so elusive.
The disguise, the codes, the double life.
And most importantly, the impact.
On the victims and the families.
Which is immeasurable. You can't put a price on that. So I guess this leaves us with a final thought for you listeners out there.
Okay, I like this.
As you reflect on everything we've talked about, what common threads
this is good.
Do you see in how these types of extreme crimes shape our understanding of safety,
justice,
and the human psyche?
Wow, that's deep.
Like, how do these cases make you think differently?
How do they change us?
About the world?
Yeah.
And what other questions do these cases raise for you?
What do you want to explore further?
You know, what do you want to learn more about?
Yeah, because there's always more to learn.
Yeah, because this is just the tip of the iceberg.
Exactly.
There's so much more to explore.
So go out there and do some research.
Yeah, go down those rabbit holes.
Who knows, maybe you'll uncover something new.
Yeah.
That no one's ever thought of before.
That's the beauty of it.
Exactly.
So thanks for joining us.
Yeah, this is a good one.
For this deep dive.
Until next time.
We'll see you next time.
Keep it curious.
Stay curious.
Yeah.
Bye.